Hi, all y'all. Welcome to Two-Way Tonight. Mark Halperin here. Yesterday on the morning meeting, when we were about 11 hours away from the deadline, I said there can't be a deal because the two sides are too far apart on nuclear. I mean, Iran was asking for whack stuff. They were asking for reparations and, U.S. military bases in the region. And then there was a deal, and I looked so silly because I didn't think there could be. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we spent most of the day unraveling the deal, from the early morning remarks from J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth saying a little bit of trust, but mostly verify on all sorts of things, to the Strait not really being fully open, to Iran. Apparently, you never know if these things are real, but apparently putting out a statement saying 3 provisions of their 10 have already been violated. And although there's been an announcement that the vice president and Mr. Witkoff and Mr. Kushner plan to attend talks in Islamabad on Saturday, the Iranians say, well, no, we're not showing up for the talks because you're violating the deal. And the biggest flashpoint in the alleged deal already being violated, sweepstakes, is Lebanon, where the United States and Israel say Lebanon is not part of the deal. Israel can continue to attack in Lebanon, but the Pakistani interlocutors and the Iranians themselves say, oh, no, Lebanon's very much part of the ceasefire. And now late breaking news that the French have weighed in. Don't be surprised to learn that the French weighed in not on behalf of their ally, the United States, but on behalf of Iran. Tweet from Mr. Macron. I spoke today with the Iranian president as well as with Donald Trump. I told them both. I told both of them that their decision to accept a ceasefire was the best possible one. I expressed my hope, blah, 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 blah. And he says he thinks Lebanon should be part of the agreement. So the whole point of my windup here, ladies and gentlemen, is, here it is. President Macron tells Trump, Iran president, that ceasefire must include Lebanon, even though Trump, Vance, and the White House say it does not. So the point is, and there's continue to be reports that there's attacks coming from Iran on various countries. So is this all just the growing pains of a deal just a day old, and as it matures into day 2, things will settle down and focus will turn to the talking points of the two sides on Saturday? Or is this deal done? Not done in the way finished, but consummated, but is it kaput? We'll explore that with our guests and with you tonight here, with a lot of sound from the vice president, who again is supposed to lead the talks if they happen. Mystery around this question. The White House says that the 10-point Iranian plan that they're working off of is V3, version 3, Rev 2, I would call it, because the first one they say was written by AI, wasn't serious. And they say they're on the third one, and that when people say this is the Iranian plan and it's irreconcilable with America, they're looking at the wrong plan. But they haven't showed us the right plan. And Iran seems to not like what's going on. So there's some other news in the world. I'm particularly struck by Reverend Al Sharpton hosting Congressman Ro Khanna for an event today and referring to him as Roy throughout. I like that. I just find the resonance and the symbolism and the curiosity of it. We'll show you that. There's some other news. My point is, not all the news is about Iran, but a lot of it is, and a lot of it revolves around the ambiguities of what's going on. My friends in the markets, I love my friends in the markets. They take me to steak dinners. They host me at Hamptons weekends. They regale me with invitations to their fancy conferences around the world. They're wonderful people. But man, are they babies. They jump to all sorts of conclusions. They think they know as much about politics as Matthew Bartlett. And they're just a bunch of rich people who know markets. I don't begrudge them their knowledge of markets, but they just want to move on. They want the war to be over. And so all day they said to me, well, Mark, is the war going to start back up? It can't possibly. That could imperil my 5th nanny for the Hamptons this summer. It's carefully scheduled. It requires 5 nannies. Can't cut back to 4, but might have to. The war may start again. I listen to all the people on here from finance, By the way, I'm working on my imitation of my friend Harry at CNN. That's why I'm a little hyped up today, because I'm working into my repertoire. Anyway, the war might start again. That I should have led with that. And Pete Hegseth said as much. The vice president said as much. However, the markets don't know this yet because they just don't want to believe it. Dow closed up over 1,000 points, 1,300 points. Oil closed down. Brent crude, they're giving it away, $96 a barrel. So what are we to make of all this? What are we to make of all this? What we're to make of it all is that Donald Trump is being heralded on X and elsewhere by his supporters as a genius. Once again, the art of the deal. Oh, the Iranians are so stupid. Trump will define the terms. He'll eventually get what he wants. Bibi Netanyahu's not very happy. He says the war is just beginning, not just in Lebanon, but overall. And then there are people who are saying the president's an idiot. I don't really know what's happening, and I can tell you, I don't think Marco Rubio knows what's happening. I don't think the Ayatollah knows what's happening. I don't even think these geniuses in Pakistan know what's happening, because there's a lot of ambiguity about what's been agreed to. And this question of the strait not being open, some ships have gone through, but not very many, continues to get a lot of focus. But to me, it's the nuclear weapons. To me, that's where this ends. And the Iranians, I don't care about the regime change or the change in the nameplates. The Iranians are the same people. Their legitimacy as rulers over a bunch of tens of millions of people who don't want to be led by them, same level of legitimacy. Their religious fanaticism, their hatred of Israel and the United States, all the same. Horrible allergies here, by the way. Hold on, gonna mute while I sneeze. Horrible for the podcast version. At least those of you on the YouTube can watch me sneeze. Never live in Washington in April. Never visit Washington in April if you've got allergies. Okay, quick word from a sponsor, and then our guests will be here, and then we're going to just start showing you JD Vance sound bites galore. Just JD Vance today was like a combination of Mark Twain and Yoda. He just had a bunch of homespun stuff to say. And we'll ask our guests if they know, even though the Pakistanis don't, what the heck is going on. All right, how's my Harriet imitation? Is it growing on you at all? Cozy Earth is one of our sponsors tonight. They've been our sponsor for a while. Got some great new dog pictures in today. We'll show them to you on the morning meeting tomorrow. Cozy Earth, good for dogs, good for moms. Mother's Day presents galore. Available on the Cozy Earth website. Go to cozyearth.com. Use the promo code 2WAY for 20% off everything on the site. I recommend for moms the Cozy Earth Bubble Cuddle Blanket. Great for dogs, great for moms. I recommend for moms the bathrobes. Come in at least 4 different varieties, lots of colors. Very, very handsome. And I also recommend the slippers. All available to you right now. Next level stuff. Very comfortable, very affordable, very sleek, very stylish, very much worthy of a mom's Mother's Day gift. Can't go wrong here, ladies and gentlemen. Let this Mother's Day be a reminder that you care about the moms in your life. Discover how Cozy Earth turns everyday routines into moments of softness and ease. CozyEarth.com, promo code 2WAY for 20% off. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, without further, as Rick Perry would say, adieu, let's bring in our guests and see what they think about all this. I've talked enough. Jessica Anderson is back, returning Jeopardy champion. We've enjoyed her presence here before. Jessica, welcome back.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me tonight. Also in DC, terrible pollen. So
yeah. Do you have allergies?
I do, and it's been awful. I went outside for like an hour today and was just dying. So
I thought I might have COVID. It's just allergies. Jessica, here's my new question I ask people. I used to ask people, which have you been more to? Paris, France, or Staten Island? What's your answer to that one?
Which have I been more to?
Paris, France, or Staten Island?
Yeah. I've been more to Staten Island.
Really?
I've only been
Okay.
to Paris. Yeah, I've only been to Paris once. It was
All right.
lovely.
J-
But I've been to Staten Island quite a bit.
All right. Here's my new question. If there were peaceful conditions, would you rather spend a week in Havana or Tehran?
Neither.
Neither. All right. Jessica's the
The
president of
airplane.
this of the Sentinel Action Fund. Jessica, remind people what you do at the Sentinel Action Fund.
We run the ground game for the United States Senate. So our goal is to elect Republicans in the Senate by encouraging voters to vote absentee ballot or early vote. And we're doing this across 6 different battleground states for this upcoming Senate midterm elections.
You got a Graham Plattner voodoo doll on your desk?
You know it.
Yeah. Welcome also, ladies and gentlemen, Jim Kessler, another returning Jeopardy champion, Executive Vice President for Policy at Third Way, one of Washington's legacy, and I mean that in a positive way, organizations, been around a long time, center left, and a great capacity to communicate serious ideas in a digestible manner. And I've been at it, doing good work for the party for quite some time. Jim, welcome back. Thank you for being here.
Great to be here. Hi, Jessica.
Very quickly.
Good to see you, Jim.
Very quickly, which have you been to more, Staten Island or Paris?
Paris, definitely.
Yeah.
I've been to Staten Island a few times because I worked for Chuck Schumer
Yeah.
for many years, but I have relatives in Paris.
Okay. Well, that gives you a pass. And then Jessica passed on my new Havana Tehran question. Do you have a preference for that one?
Absolutely. I would love to go to Havana and watch baseball.
Baseball. Interesting. Do they have a very good league there?
They've got great baseball in Cuba, and they have great jazz. I would do both of those.
Yeah. Do they let players come play in the major leagues, like leave Cuba?
When they escape.
Only when they escape. Okay.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's just start by asking about the war. Jessica, you first. Do you have an intuitive sense, a knowledge-based sense? Is there a deal here, or is it all falling apart in day 2?
I can't entirely tell what's happening at this exact moment. Part of me feels like this is just the jitters of the deal being in place and it taking like a 24-hour lag for everybody to catch up. I thought that the vice president being on the ground was a very strong signal that this is real. The fact that so many senior White House officials are rushing to that part of the world also makes me feel like it's real, but I really don't think we'll know for certain probably for the next 72 hours because this is a really big deal. I really want to underscore that, Mark, because I think the monumental nature, if this deal does hold and a ceasefire is in place and what that means for the president to have accomplished is huge. And that's why I don't want to totally rush. Like we're right in the middle of it when this podcast is recording. Like I don't want to rush to a conclusion because we don't know. What I know is that Trump has been clear all the way going back to the campaign trail. We've talked about this before. He has said over 72 times that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. So if this deal does not hold tonight and into tomorrow, he's going to go back to the table and he's not going to be afraid, I think, to get angry. And that is not good for anyone. So my hope is that it holds and that votes can begin to pass and that oil gets back to normal and that there's peace in the Middle East, especially for the Iranian people who so desperately desire it.
Well said. Jim Kessler, thoughts on the same topic Jessica addressed?
I think we have more or less a deal, and over the next 12 to 14 days, it's going to feel like it's falling apart quite a bit. But the dynamic is that Donald Trump wants a deal and wants a deal badly. This has not worked domestically for him in the United States. This is not an overly popular military operation. And I just want to say, like, our military has done spectacularly, but there's never really been clear objectives here. And it seems pretty obvious that Trump and a lot of his team thought that, the Strait of Hormuz would not be closed by Iran. I think Iran is actually coming out of this pretty good. And my fear, and Jessica, I hope you are right, but my fear is that we have an emboldened Iran And I think in the Gulf, there's a fear that we have emboldened Iran. I do not believe that Iran is going to be able to acquire nuclear weapons, but I didn't believe that was going to happen before the military operation, and I don't believe it's going to happen after the military operation. But I do think that like Iran has come out of this in some ways both diminished and in better shape.
Yeah, well said. And I don't think there's any doubt that if there are talks, they don't show up in Islamabad with their heads bowed. They show up holding some cards. Let me run through some news. And again, grateful to you both for being here. If you're here on the platform, you'd like to be in the conversation, please raise your hand. If you're watching on X or YouTube, please no smack in the chat and don't raise your hand. And remember, peace, love, and understanding. Wall Street Journal is reporting that the president is considering punishing some NATO countries that he believed were unhelpful in the Iran conflict. As far as I know, the president's meeting with the head of NATO continues and well over the allotted time. So we'll keep watching for that to end. In addition, hold on here, just we're racing through different things. All right. Here's the headline. Number one, New York Times. This has been the news all day. Ceasefire tested by confusion over Strait and strikes in Lebanon. Those are the two main points of confusion now, as I said before, but there's confusion also over whether Iran's going to get rid of its nuclear program. That's a big one. Wall Street Journal, of course, number two, focused on the Hormuz Strait because its readers care about that. Iran tightens its grip on Hormuz despite ceasefire. Now, that's just today. Number four, Washington Post, Iran accuses U.S. and Israel of ceasefire violations threatening truce. Number five, Wall Street Journal, Vance to lead the delegation to negotiations with Iran. Again, Mr. Kushner, Mr. Witkoff also going. And the president, angry, as Karoline Leavitt was also, number 8 on Truth Social, about the concept that there are different plans and that people are reading the wrong Iranian plan. He says numerous agreements, lists, and letters are being sent out by people that have absolutely nothing to do with the USA-Iran negotiations. In many cases, they're total fraudsters, charlatans, and worse. They will be rapidly exposed after our federal investigation is completed. I have to say, I know we live in an age of AI and all sorts of false, fake things out there, but if somebody respectable tweets a document purporting to be from the Iranian government, it'd be nice to know just immediately if it was authentic. Seems like that's something that should happen. All right, JD Vance, I promised you JD Vance. Here's JD Vance, number 9, please, talking about what happens if Iran breaks the deal.
The leadership is really to blame for the condition of the country in Iran. The president of the United States has made very clear that the United States has a lot of leverage here. We have economic leverage. We've got military leverage. What he's trying to do is make sure the American people are safe and strike a deal that's good for the American people. I encourage the Iranians to come to the table seriously. We've seen some signs that they're going to do that. We've seen some signs of bravado. Fundamentally, we're in a good spot. They're reopening the straits. We have a ceasefire. And frankly, if they break their end of the bargain, then they're going to see some serious consequences.
Jim, let me ask you about that. We know we're dealing with bad actors. These are such bad actors that twice the United States broke off the conversations about the nuclear program and other things to attack Iran. And even though these aren't the exact same people, it's the same ideology, it's the same government. So the vice president expresses skepticism. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. But should we have a ceasefire now? Does it make sense to have a ceasefire to let them rearm to make it harder to start things back up? Is that given I guess I'll just get this way, given the posture at the highest levels of the American government that we're dealing with untrustworthy people, why is there a ceasefire with them? Why could we make an agreement like that?
Well, we knew we were going to be dealing with untrustworthy people the minute we decided to begin a war against them. And we knew we'd have to negotiate with somebody. And the idea that we were going to bomb them back to the Stone Age is hyperbole. I'm just being polite there. I mean, you're going to have to negotiate with somebody, and they're going to bring their interests to the table. They're not honorable people. But I mean, that's what you're going to deal with here. And look, ironically, Iran has been punished. Okay, I mean, they took quite a beating, but it's America that wants the deal more than Iran wants the deal. I mean, that was what was obvious here. And whoever wants the deal first kind of gets the short end of the stick. And I do believe that Iran is coming out of this in sort of better geopolitical shape, possibly in the long term, than they were beforehand. So I'm not real happy about
Yeah.
the situation right now.
Jessica, go ahead.
I don't want to, I know it's your show, Mark. I don't want to jump in
Yeah.
too much, but I am curious, like, I don't think Iran is leaving this with any more friends. I actually think that they've lost friends. I'm not sure that there's any scenario where we say that they're coming out with a better hand. They've lost their entire leadership of their military. They've lost their brass, and they've lost the Gulf. I mean, that is, before this, that was an unknown. Where were the countries in the Gulf going to come down? And there was, I think both of us, right? Both sides of the aisle would have agreed, like, different countries played it both ways at different parts of the last 2 decades, as every recent president before President Trump has tried to solve this problem. So now it's very clear the countries in the Gulf are very much aligned with the United States, and how Iran acted at the very beginning of this war, 35, 38 days ago, with basically just randomly bombing the region, did not win them any friends. So if your point is that they're more aligned with China or they're more aligned with Russia, then I take it. And I definitely think that is true, like the digging in the heels with those two allies. And I think then it's an interesting conversation of how the president's visit in May, if he still goes to China, becomes relevant. But I don't think from a geopolitical standpoint, they're walking away with more allies. I think they're walking away with less. And I think that the world knows, frankly, what the United States has been trying to do when it comes to energy, of moving our reliance of energy away from foreign countries and instead having American energy independence, that is critical. I mean, that is my biggest takeaway. Like, I just don't want to be relying on anyone for American energy. And I think that needs to be the top issue. I wish it were amongst voters for my day job. It's not, but maybe one day it will be. And I think that is definitely an outcome here. So I just tug at that a little bit, because I think the facts are different with the friendships that are evolving and falling apart.
Mark, can I just take a moment to respond
before you do, and I want you to, but let me just do 3 quick things. First of all, Jessica, it's respect. It's not my show; it's the community show. Number 2, I love when the guests jump in. So never be reluctant to jump in and ask each other questions and ask community members questions. And then 3, Jim, I could make the case for why I think Iran's strengthened, but I'd rather you do it. So please.
So Jessica, I don't disagree with anything that you said. However, what we just saw now is Iran. I believe the world sees that Iran made America stop, because they held the Strait hostage and they caused economic pain throughout the world, particularly in America, and Trump backed down. I think that is what people are saying in the war there. The other thing is this: yes, Israel and the United States wiped out the Iranian leadership, but that was a very, very, very old sclerotic leadership that might have been ready to teeter on its own and was led by 85-year-olds. And now it's being led by 45 and 50-year-olds. And my fear is that this existing regime, having survived this and fought back against America and getting this type of victory, they now have greater possession of that country than they did before, when they were a dying dynasty. And then the last thing I'd say is, this is further widening the rift between the United States and NATO. And if one of the byproducts of this is that it creates a bigger rift there, that is the worst thing that can happen in the world. So I do think that the outcome of this is not great for the United States so
Yeah.
far. I hope I am wrong, but that's what I'm seeing.
Brilliantly said. And Jessica, I want you to respond, but let me just add two or emphasize two things a little bit from what Jim said. One is they have as been reported by me and others, they have emerging with a higher percentage of their missiles and all their nuclear material so far than the United States government has been claiming. And that's that's like a Vietnam era, the American government just not telling the truth, and Iran's on the right side of the truth on that. And I think that's a psychological victory for them that's not insignificant, and a practical victory because they still have ballistic missiles they can fire, and we've seen it every day. The White House said they have no capability, and they're firing missiles at the Gulf states and at Israel. They were able to shoot down an American aircraft, and then second, they shut down the Gulf, the Strait, and the economic and psychological impact of that is just massive. And I don't really know. We talked about it this morning. I don't really know what modalities will be in place to keep them from doing it again. But that's a pretty big piece of power that the president of the United States, again, Donald Trump, long history of saying one thing one day and one thing another. But first the president said it had to open. Then he said, we don't care. It'll open organically. Then he said, we're going to get our allies to help. And then the allies wouldn't. So he said, well, we never really wanted them to do it anyway. It was just a test, like Willy Wonka. And then he said, everything's about the ceasefire deal. Everything's about opening the strait. So I think that, again, practical and psychological, maybe net, they're not stronger, but there's a lot of additional strength. Jessica.
I don't disagree with the whiplash. And I think the whiplash on this issue is not any different, frankly, than any of the whiplash that we see on other issues, other policy issues. I definitely agree with that. It's something that we see with voters. They want to see consistency on the issues and following through on priorities. What my challenge here, though, and that I would just like encourage us all to think is like, let's remember who we're rooting for and how we got here. This is a decade-long problem that this president is trying to solve, and every president in recent years has tried to solve it as well, because the Iranian regime has been terrorizing the world and killing Americans. And that should be the motivator to try to get this right. And, I've said this on the show before when you've been kind enough to have me, like, I'm the wife of a veteran, went 2 times to Afghanistan. I had my son when he was in Kandahar, like our son when he was in Kandahar. Like, the sacrifices that have been made by this military and their families and their spouses that are at home should not be diminished. And they should only be celebrated. And I think our military has proven its might and like just how like badass it is. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say that word, but like, it is, they're just crushing it between what happened in Venezuela. And then when you saw the rescue, I mean, golly, amazing. And so, I think the sacrifices are not to be taken lightly. And what this military is trying to do, what this president is trying to do, first having started with negotiations at the table, following the suit of previous presidents, right? And then escalating with the bombing, and now escalating even more and holding to his commitment of not having troops on the ground, which is different than shoes on the ground. And to your point, Mark, about, how much nukes do they have, and are there chemicals, are there not? I mean, that is why we need white shoes on the ground. We need scientists that actually can go in and ascertain that. I agree with that entirely. I just think at the end of the day, this is a president that is committed to using everything that he can. And if the messaging was done right, which I'm not sure it is, because we're having this very conversation, and I think, Jim and I agree on a lot of things, but if the messaging was done right, I actually think you'd have an American people that are happy to pay a little bit more at the pump, knowing that a regime that has been terrorizing the world and killing Americans is being put to bed. And the clarity of this, of that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, should be clear. No one should be questioning or trying to understand why we're there. And so if the White House has any work to do, I think it's actually on the messaging front to be very clear and explain why we're there and the progress that's being made. It's not unlike when, 4 or 5 years ago when the conversations about the borders started, and all I heard from voters, and Mark, you're going to love this, all I heard from voters was, we're happy to pay more for avocados if it means that our border is more secure, right? They were willing to take the increase in the price, knowing that the larger goals were being ascertained, and the promises kept. So I think that's where my head is at. We'll see what tonight holds and tomorrow, but I mean, I want to be on the side of rooting for America, and I want to be on the side of rooting for peace here, and I want this to be the president's win, because I think the world needs it.
Yeah, a few things. We're going to get to your questions in just a minute after a few more topics, so please raise your hand if you'd like to be in the conversation. If you've never raised your hand, join us. The Secretary General of NATO has departed the White House, according to the pool, without taking questions and without a photo op. Karoline,
that was a long meeting.
It was a long
meeting.
Karoline Leavitt read a message from the president at the briefing today. It's pretty clear that however angry you thought he was at NATO before the war and a few days ago, he's still pretty angry. And again, as I told you, the journal's reporting that perhaps there'll be some punishments for some NATO countries. In response to your question, Jessica, you can say any 2 words on this program except for Rumpelstiltskin and Baba Booey. Everything else is fair. Okay. Is fair game.
Fair enough.
Benjamin Netanyahu has given a speech and tweeted up a storm. Well, they tweeted up a lot of what he said in his speech, and amongst the things he said in his speech is that. Oh, yes, very much was Lebanon included in this deal, and that the United States, he says, did more damage to Lebanon terror network today than they've done since the day of the famous pager explosion that the Israelis engineered. Here is a bit of what Bibi Netanyahu said about the war in his remarks to the Israeli people. This number 17, please.
Israel is stronger than ever. This is the bottom line of this campaign up until now. Let me say, there are still additional objectives for us to achieve, and we will achieve them either by agreement or by resumption of the fighting. We are ready to resume the fighting at any moment. Our finger is on the trigger. As you know, 2-week ceasefire has been announced between the U.S. and Iran. No, we were not surprised in the last moment, and I want to emphasize, this is not the end of the war. This is a step in order to achieve all the objectives.
Someone, I think the Wall Street Journal, I may be misremembering, but somebody reported today that, in fact, the president only informed Netanyahu about the deal shortly before it was announced. And as I've said many times, it's a testament to Netanyahu and Trump that there have been very few leaks about tensions between them, and they are united on this question of whether Lebanon was included in the deal. Netanyahu says it very much was included in the deal. I wonder still, if the talks do go forward on Saturday, will Israel be in the room? My gut is they will not be, but I'm not sure how they'll explain that. Jim, do you think Israel will be in the room for the negotiations?
I don't think they will be. I agree with you. I don't think they will be. And I think there's going to be some sort of attempt by Iran and the United States and the other folks that are doing the negotiations to try and cabin that off. I think there might be the beginning of a worsening relationship between Trump and Netanyahu, because if you believe the New York Times story, the Haberman and Swan story that I thought was excellent, Netanyahu really lobbied hard about this war and said it was going to be easy. And, it wasn't. It wasn't nearly as easy as the administration thought it was going to be. And I think there's going to be some blame placed there. And so I think there could be some choppy seas ahead.
Yeah. Jessica, you think there'll be a seat in the room for the Israelis?
No, I don't think so. I agree with y'all. It's just not appropriate for them to be at the table. Yeah. I can't see a scenario. I mean, I think it'd be very unlikely that they had a seat at the table at this point.
Yeah. Do you guys read Politico? Ever? You ever read Politico? While we've been on the air, they've run a story very much germane to both your lives Headline: Republicans fear Iran will cost them the midterms, ceasefire or not. Let me read you the top. Republicans are relieved over Trump's steps toward reconciliation in Iran, but they worry the measures are too little, too late to save them from a brutal midterm election cycle. It's weird that they refer to the president as Trump, not President Trump on first mention. Beyond the public celebration by many Republicans, the temporary 2-week ceasefire, longtime party operatives continue to warn of a bleak political reality as cost of living concerns around the war, including spiking gas prices that are likely to continue for weeks, if not longer, even if the fragile ceasefire holds. A person close to the White House granted anonymity to speak candidly, put it bluntly. Here's, Jessica, what I'll ask you to respond to. This war in Iran, almost certain, cements the fact that we lose the midterms in November, the Senate and the House. This person said. Jessica, that's not true, is it?
No. I mean, I don't agree with any of that. I think all of that is bizarre. But we are actively talking to voters on a weekly, daily basis. And it's interesting, the foreign policy stuff, it does not crack the top 3 on a regular basis. You have these little blips, right? But it is not something that is top of mind, especially for low propensity voters that are non-habitual, that don't watch mainstream media and news, that don't really see everything that we see. They're not glued to the television watching the straight, right? This is not there. This is not top of their mind. So the better argument is, okay, what are we going to do about affordability? Is that going to be properly realized and felt now that tax returns are hitting on April 15th? Are people seeing more money in their pocketbooks? That's what I've been waiting for with these voters, because we've been talking about an economic turnaround that takes months, because it's deregulation, it's tax cuts, it's no tax on tips, it's everything that was in the big, beautiful bill. And then now the oil kind of interrupts that, right, with the gas prices. And so what I'm waiting for in the next really 30 days or so is, now that we're on the other side of April 15th for tax day, what are people actually feeling about their economic state? And I think that's the bigger indicator of how the midterms are going to go. There's a lot of time between now and then. People were crying wolf, right after Venezuela. It was like the same thing. And we're not even talking about that anymore. So I think that's silly. Those quotes.
Thank you. Jim, are you a betting man?
Yes.
Will Democrats win Republican-held Senate seats in Ohio, Maine, and North Carolina?
I think so. I think we will win Senate seats in all of those places.
Will Democrats hold their seats in Georgia, Michigan, and what's the one I'm forgetting? New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Will Democrats hold all those?
So absolutely in Georgia and New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Michigan, if it's McMorrow or Stevens, they'll hold that seat.
Yeah.
If it's not, then it's going to be tough. Jessica has a really tough environment that she's
really. See, I think she's blessed with a Senate map, because in order for you to take the majority, you have to win all 6 of those and one more. So let's say you win all 6 of those, and the one you questioned the most was a Democratic held seat in Michigan, although you're counting on beating Susan Collins. But let's say you win them all. Which one are you going to win amongst Texas, Iowa, and Alaska to take the majority?
Well, the price of gas in Alaska is $4.64. So I think that the problem with the Iran war that is different than Venezuela is that folks are going to be paying the price for something that they're not sure what they actually got. Right. And gas prices will start drifting down probably in a couple of weeks. But, I've been through this before on the other side of this, on the Biden side. Like, the economy looked pretty good under Biden. Cost of living was returning to normal. Gas prices were returning to normal, all those things. Voters didn't buy it. And they're not buying it now either. And we have a 1/3, 2/3 economy. If you're 1/3 of America that is invested in the stock market, it's been a great 5-10 years. But if you're the other 2/3 of America that really hasn't been, they don't feel good.
Just a question. are you saying that Iowa and Texas are out of reach, or just Alaska's the most likely?
If I believe that North Carolina's of the flip seats, North
Yeah.
Carolina's
I'm
number
giving
one.
I'm giving you all six. I'm just looking for your
Okay.
fourth pickup.
North Carolina's number one. Maine is number two.
Yeah.
Alaska is number three for the
Ahead of
pickup.
Ohio.
And I think Ohio and Iowa are 4 and 5.
Wow. You ever met Dan Sullivan?
Yes.
And you think he's just a stiff who's going to lose to a challenger as an incumbent?
I think she's a tough opponent.
She's a good candidate. I will say that if Dan Sullivan loses, I will eat a salmon sandwich. It's a little joke there. All right, a couple more things, and then we'll get to your questions. I just remain skeptical about Alaska. I know ranked choice voting is confusing. I wanted you guys to answer this question after we watch the video. If you were Ro Khanna, what would you have done in this situation? Roll number 20, please.
Have something to offer and contribute with humility to our nation at this moment.
Roy Khanna, Congressman Roy Khanna. Give him a hand.
That's good.
Jim Kessler, would you have handled that any differently?
I would yell at my staff.
All right. That's a good answer.
What can you do?
Yeah.
What
All right,
can you do?
Jessica,
What can you do? I mean, look, I get called Jennifer all the time. So, it just is what it is. But it is remarkable that it happened, and it's rather embarrassing. But it's what happens. He couldn't interrupt him. I mean, the crowd was applauding, like it is what it is. But probably not a clip he's going to put out on YouTube tonight.
it's like a name ID thing, maybe. All right, a quick word from one more sponsor, and then to your questions. Please raise your hand if you want to get in the conversation, and you don't have to have asked a question before. It's very safe here. You can ask whatever you want. You can see how nice Jim and Jennifer are, Jessica are.
There you go. See?
Other sponsor nights, my friends at fastgrowingtrees.com. If you need more green in your life, you want to plant or a tree or a bush, you can buy an apple tree from them. I did the other day. Go to fastgrowingtrees.com, put in the promo code 2WAY, 20% off everything on the site. It's spring, great time to plant. And they couldn't make it easier. It shows up at your house in a big box. I'll never forget when I got the 7-foot box at my house, unwrapped a big tree. Fastgrowingtrees.com, America's largest online nursery, over 2 million happy customers, including this one. Plants that actually work in whatever space you have, whatever climate. The website really just makes it easy to pick. And go on and buy yourself something and see how easy it is. Get their Alive and Thrive guarantee. Everything you buy there will come living and ready to grow. Their plant experts will help you choose, and then available 7 days a week via email, chat, or phone to give you personalized advice. Go to fastgrowingtrees.com, promo code 2WAY for 20% off everything on the site. Perfect time to plant. Let's grow together. Fastgrowingtrees.com today. Sue, welcome in. Thank you for being part of 2WAY. Tell everybody who doesn't know where you are and what's on your mind for Jennifer, Jessica, and for Jessica and for Jim. Sue.
Hi. Thank you. I currently live in Colorado. There's a couple of things I've been curious about, and I'll just start off by saying I do understand the difference between the JCPOA and what is going on right now. But Trump has complained forever about pallets of cash going to Iran, but yet he let Iran sell oil and now is saying you can split the difference, the tribute with us for the Strait of Hormuz. So they're going to be getting all this money again, which they will use for all of the things, in my opinion, that Trump has been saying they use the pallets of cash for. And then the second thing that I've been curious about, Iran was supplying Russia with all of these drones for Ukraine. And we have, yes, destroyed a lot of the drones. They are using a lot of the drones. We don't know how many drones are left. Is any of this going to affect Russia's, with the drone situation, affect Russia's ability to be on the offensive in Ukraine?
So those are two great questions. Let's talk about the cash first. Jessica, how can you defend or support the notion of helping Iran be richer, which the president's now not only done, as Sue points out, but a lot of what the president's proposing is to go into business with Iran.
I mean, I think this is this is part of how the president is trying to get a deal in place. Selena Zito had some good comments on this today. I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but she basically said Trump is the negotiator in chief, right? That's what he's trying to do, and he's trying to give a little to get a lot. And the number one goal was on the nuclear side and to cut off the Iranian regime's terrorism and killing of Americans. And so I think that is kind of his first and foremost goal. And the details, if the plan holds, right? And I think we all agree that we don't know what tonight, what tonight's going to look like if this thing falls apart. But if the plan holds, the United States did negotiate, and a negotiation by definition means giving some things back, but then taking a lot. And the United States is not walking away in a bad place here. Their goal is to walk away with no nuclear power for Iran. That is the goal first and foremost. So that's kind of the line that I'm going to use to decide like if this was a good deal or not, if it holds. And then I think from there, the details of, what does Iran look like going forward, and who is running the country, and what sort of financial assets they have available to them. That's something that I don't think we want to see any money going back to Iran. And that's where he's going to lose a lot of supporters if that becomes part of the equation, in the next 72 hours.
Brilliantly said, truly. Jim.
Iran, the choice always has been for the last several decades. You can have nuclear weapons or you can have an economy. You can't have both. I have a feeling that there's going to be a nuclear deal. I think Iran always wanted to somehow make a trade on this. I think they're going to make out pretty well on it. That's my view. On your Ukraine question, let me just add to what you said, Sue. And the Ukrainians were helping our side, and the Russians were helping the Iranian side.
Exactly.
Let us remember who's with us and who's not with us. Russia is America's #1 immediate threat. China is America's #1 long-term threat. Iran is far down the list. So we can't let our boot off of Russia's throat.
You just did the mic drop there, Mark.
Yeah. No, I wasn't sure if Jim was pausing for dramatic effect or about to pick back up or dropping the mic. Jessica.
I mean, Jim, that was his mic drop. I mean, Jim, I think Iran is top 5. I don't think it's far down the list. I mean, if Russia and China are 1 and 2, Iran is 3 and 4. Like, yeah. Iran's before Venezuela, but there was a reason that Venezuela came first because of the nexus with energy to China. And there's a reason Iran is mutually beneficial in the fight against China and with energy of choking China. So I think they're all interconnected. I know it's tough to say all of them are #1 and all of them are #1 priority, but the #1 priority is American safety and security and prosperity here. And how you get there with these foreign adversaries, many presidents have tried and failed, and this is this president's attempt to try. But I think it's top 5.
Sue, grateful to you. Thank you for being here. Tom, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind for our guests.
Sure, a couple questions. Tom Smith from Somerset, New Jersey.
Do them one at a time, Tom.
Okay. What happened to your beard, Mark?
I shaved it off when my vacation ended because I didn't. You can carry it off and I couldn't.
Okay. First of all, I would think that China is their #1, not Russia. They don't have the backing any more than they used to. My question on the gas prices, and I've said this before on this show, why don't we just do a ban export and lower the prices overnight of oil and gas?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, some of that, Tom, is that a lot of the oil that we use in the United States for our transportations, our fuels, the things we use, is not the oil that we produce in the United States. Like, there's all sorts of different grades of that crude. So, that international flow in part is because of the different types of oils that we have. And I'm not an economist, but it is a world price out there, and those world prices matter.
Well, Jim, if I correctly, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think we only use 5% externally. And if we would not follow the world price and use our own price, and that's the whole idea, then we would be isolated from it.
Yeah, I would just give a statistic to just offer to the thinking here is that the United States is taking dramatic steps to not have to rely on foreign oil. And the fact that the US is producing over 13.5 million barrels of US based oil a day is significant. And so, it's not for nothing. Again, this chronology of Venezuela to the now, and then the president's trip to China in May, like these are all steps. And I don't think he could have done what he did now. Now, he, of course, didn't expect the Strait of Hormuz to be shut down, but we are actually impacted way less of that because we have less reliance on foreign oil. The challenge is to get that down to zero and as much as humanly possible. And I think that's a great goal. And it's something that I think voters would rally behind if it means that the price at the pump, it stays consistent and stays low. So they got to do both at the same time.
Tom, did you have one more question?
Yes, I did, Mark. NATO, why are we even in it? I mean, our only ally so far has been Israel. We've asked, they blocked us from their air bases. We've been paying for them for the last, since World War II. I understand that at one time, the World War II, we were worried about something else, but they are not true allies. So I would think you would save a lot of money. Last time I looked, with 797 million on direct costs and about 18 billion in indirect costs. So this would greatly help out our economy. We took the money back.
Tom, would you feel no less safe if there were no U.S. troops in Europe? Would you feel
I would not
equally
feel
safe?
less safe. I would feel the same.
The same. Okay.
The same.
Jessica, make the case for NATO.
That's Jim.
No, you, if it were up to you, you'd take U.S. out of NATO and American troops out of Europe.
I think that Tom's sentiment is very much shared by a lot of conservatives, especially over the last 6 years.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that, and Rubio said this today, I think you may have even shown this clip earlier, that, after this is all concluded and there's an after action looking back, we're going to re-examine the value of NATO. What have they done? Where have they been? I mean, to my point earlier, the Gulf countries have done more than a NATO country. I mean, you asked about Paris, France, like get out of here. What are they even doing?
Yeah.
So there is an element here of there's two elements. It's should the United States be paying what it is into NATO? And then second, should it be even in it?
Yeah.
I probably personally fall under the category of let's pay less and have a small insurance policy in NATO and have every other country pay more and equal what they should for regional conflicts. I think that's probably the where I would feel most comfortable, but I think Tom's comments are the right ones to start with, which is like questioning whether we should even be there in the first place and what value it serves. And I don't know that I have a great answer on what value it serves, because when we're in the middle of a fight like this, NATO's not there with us. And that was their whole reason.
Jim Kessler, do you want to unleash your, thank you, sorry. Do you want to unleash your inner Richard Haas and
yes,
make ode to NATO?
He was my statistics teacher once upon a time.
Really? Richard Haas was?
Yes.
Where was that?
At the Kennedy School.
Okay.
So I agree with some of what Trump has said and done about NATO, which is NATO needs to carry a bigger share. And I think he's been effective in doing that. I also want to say that for the last 75 years, the US-NATO alliance has been incredibly important, and that I think you can get spoiled by having peace in a region that's had a lot of war, and we've had peace in a region that's had a lot of war over the centuries, and where American lives have been lost. I also want to thank NATO for coming to America's aid after 9/11 and siding with us and helping us with Iraq and Afghanistan, even though there were a lot of doubts about that, they were there and they stood with us. And I think, the Iraq War was a mistake, and they were there for us.
Yeah. Jim, if you could start over and just build from scratch, how would NATO look different than it looks now?
Well, I do think that you would want, look, I think what Carney's trying to do in Canada makes a lot of sense about these middle powers, Europe, Canada, some of the Asian countries saying, like, we can't count on the United States as much anymore. We need to stand up on our own. And I think that that's very, very important.
Yeah.
But Russia's a huge problem. They might not, they're a huge problem. I mean, they invaded another country, and China is a huge challenge there. I want a strong NATO, and and with the Five Eyes countries as well. Like that is what we should want there. And I just want to make one more point about the Iran war.
Yeah.
If you unilaterally put tariffs on European countries, if you unilaterally say, I'm going to take one of your countries, Greenland, and just grab it, and if you don't inform them of what you're going to do, after you spend a few years insulting them, what do you expect? They're behaving the way you'd expect them to behave.
Yeah.
And let's not be surprised that they're doing that. Tom, thanks. It was a good question, though.
Excellent question.
Thank you, guys.
Tom, thank you. Jim, you might speak from tens of millions. You definitely speak for millions. But I just think that this is a divide that really explains a lot of Donald Trump's appeal, on not just the specifics of NATO, but the reflexive the reaction to people saying we got to do it because it's the way we did it. I'm not saying you're saying that.
Yeah,
but I think that's the mentality for a lot of people. Go ahead, Jessica.
He's brought this same sort of thinking of like, okay, that was good 20 years ago. Is it good now today? Or that was good 50 years ago. Is it good now today? I mean, that is what voters wanted from President Trump 1.0 just as much as 2.0. I mean, look what how he questioned the WTO, the World Trade Organization. I mean, it's the same line of thinking, and it's not bad. Like, look, if you were a business, you would reevaluate your relationships, your markets, where you're selling. You would reevaluate those on a regular basis.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I just think this is, people talk about the border, they talk about trans, they talk about other issues that get a lot of attention, that where the president was on the right side of public opinion. And I've thought since 2015, this is just an underrated one. A lot of emotion to it because it gets tied up into a lot of different issues. Grateful to have you both on. Looking forward to having you back regularly, including as we do get closer to the midterms. And Jessica and I can bet salmon sandwiches on the race in Alaska. Jim, I just say respectfully, I just don't understand that one.
I'll buy the salmon.
Okay. Thank you both for coming on. Jessica, where can people follow your group and yourself?
Stay in touch on X, Twitter at Jess Anderson 2 or SentinelActionFund.com. We're betting big on the Senate. I would say 53 for Republicans, potentially 54, and on a great night, 55. Now, those seats might change a little bit, but Republicans are not losing control of the Senate.
Yeah, my current thing is you're more likely to pick up a seat than you are to lose control.
Yeah, some seats might shift around for sure. I think that's a worthy conversation, but we're not going backwards. It's 53 or more.
Jim, where can people follow your work and your organization?
So thirdway.org, and on Twitter at thirdwaykessler. Be as mean as you want.
All right, smack in the chat. I want to mention Chuck Ross from the Free Beacon is the one who isolated that clip of Reverend Sharpton referring to Ro Khanna as Roy. Give him credit for spotting that. Grateful to you all for watching. Tonight, I'm going to have to remember what's on. Somebody's going to remind me. I know I have something to promote.
Lifelong with Ethan.
Lifelong with
Ethan,
Ethan. 7 o'clock tonight. Please watch. Learn how to live a healthier life. tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern time on the morning meeting. Larry and Kevin are on, if I'm not mistaken. Larry
They are.
O'Connor, Kevin Walling will join me. We'll have all the overnight news. We'll see where the deal stands. And new episode of Next Up tomorrow. I'm going to try to help sort through the contradictions, that confusion over the Iran deal. So join me for that as well. Thank you to Jessica. Thank you for being here, and to Jim, and all of you for being part of Two Way. I'll see you at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody.